I'm sure you're not the first one who ever saw ChatGPT answers online. And I'm not talking even about the president, taxes policy or alike, which might look impressive, but they are quite bad. Is that I'm sure that AI, at least in the state of January 2026, and let me be very clear, I was using basically the free model. So maybe a better model, reasoning model would give a better answer. But it is based on a published research, which I did myself on the topic. Because especially this is, I think, many people say, look, ChatGPT can deambiguate that. And what my research was about DNA sequencing processing. And this description, to be very clear, is quite fair. Maybe there will be some nuances which people disagree the nuance, but the quotes are fair. And my paper was comparing just improving the Java implementation. And this was the interesting part, that this Java implementation was changing the semantics of a previous paper, which had already conclusions on this question. That was the point of my research. So when I asked this question, even though it was quite clear in the context of LPrep or a Java implementation, it will give some context. And it says Go wins overall. This is the proper question, the proper answer. And I said, fine, please add my findings, because, my findings were not included in the previous research, not for other reasons, that I published in 2021, and the papers which you quoted were 2020. So they could not compare the data. That's the fair reason. So they adjusted the data, and it changed from memory poor, which becomes much improved. It says still strong baseline, likely close to Go. The Java, this my version optimized, and this is the wrong conclusion. But I said fine. So I said, look, take the benchmarks, the values from the benchmark, and reconstruct to see. It said fine, it does, and it creates the numbers. I don't know from where, but they are basically will not change by much. It's like, look, it's around 15% better. And sometimes 15% is a lot, let me be very clear. And whatever, 1.3 to 1.6 times better. And overall, they are in the same ballpark. But I said no, because my paper had the numbers. And this was the interesting part. I eventually gave to say, look, these were the numbers. Okay, 3,900, 3,000, and 125. Again, don't care about the numbers. But what I want to say, that you have to pinpoint sometimes to relate to the points, data points, to rebuild the view. And then eventually the ChatGPT becomes reasonable. So the conclusion change, okay, it describes what is done, and it says it's wrong to compare this because the data layout is meaningless, which that was a point of my paper. And I was showing that Java dominates the field, at least at the time. So, and when you put all this part, the conclusion change and the numbers change. So I said, hey, give to me the numbers, the comparison, and then everything becomes reasonable again. But this is quite hard, I can assume, a third party to know this part, because you can ask one paper, and even though it knows the other paper, it will not know, hey, look into the other paper. And the conclusions will change. Very different. Like, for example, it says garbage collection is almost irrelevant, which was true in the way it was done. And then what I really like, it is that it goes correct. Like even the paper's conclusions are wrong. Data-oriented design outperforms Go and C++, and this is the result, and then it justifies it. But again, who on the third party would know how to rebuild without following magically the paper? No one will know it, and I'm not judging why don't you know it. Is that is done, and then it also finds all these issues like cost explosions, and it can justify and can find even bad pieces of code and can compare them properly and whatever was the part. And if we agree with that, let's go that maybe we can go to Google, and Google gave a much better answer, just to be very clear. So when this was the context, I copy pasted basically the questions. When I was asking, hey, how is compared, it took the conclusions and it kind of combined them. It was not ideal, but it was saying, hey, this would be a faster argument. And then if you'll put one on top on the other, it will give right away a very clear improvement. And it was saying that the byte stream would improve a lot the I/O, which in fact, I'm not sure if it's 10x, but probably it's composing with another papers. But I never come with this number myself. But it is a reasonable sometimes 10x to be the limit, like how it was done. And then I was showing like, I don't know, for 1 million entries, there was just a 1 gigabyte of over bookkeeping. And I showed how to remove that, which is great. So yes, so what I want to say that Google's said it's much better. And many people don't know, they just quote ChatGPT. Again, I'm not saying ChatGPT, maybe it has a better version today and a model which I'm not subscribed on, I'm not paying to. But ChatGPT, when you quote it, can give you really hard to follow, and especially it's very hard to mix, especially papers with contradicting data with other components like I/O. And let me be also very clear, after I clarified to the ChatGPT at the end, I got to the discussion that I could make sense for it, and I was very happy with the answers. Sometimes I would say they were a bit even better than Go, even though I still think like with Go, when I say Go, I'm meaning Google, the data was maybe a bit, I don't know what they got this data flattening it 12x. Maybe it is, but it was at least in the field of reasonable. And before it was nonsense. Especially when, as I said to you, it was on a part of a debate papers, one commenting on the other. You have to get a subcontext to push it in another context, and you have to cherry pick. This is the hot data. But after that, it will give like this was the old code, this is the new code, or whatever. Yes, so that's all. Don't trust ChatGPT blindly. You'll burn yourself.